Good evening and welcome. This is a regular meeting of the Princeton Planning Board on July 6th, 2023. Pursuant to Section 13 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the time and place of this meeting has been given by prominently posting the resolution of regularly scheduled meetings of the Planning Board of Princeton for February 2023 through January 2024. A copy was filed with the Clerk of Princeton on January 17th, 2023. Legal notice on the adoption of said resolution was published in the January 13, 2023 edition of the Princeton Packet. Notice of this meeting also has been posted to the municipal website, princetonnj.gov/calendar. Notice that all regular and special meetings of the Princeton Planning Board will be held electronically via Zoom, was transmitted to the Princeton Packet and the Times, and was filed with the Clerk of Princeton on Tuesday, January 17, 2023. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. During hearings on applications for development, members of the public will have an opportunity to comment and ask questions. Questions may be asked after an applicant's witnesses have testified. Public comment is heard by the board after an applicant's representatives have finished their presentations and have been questioned by planning board members and staff. Those wishing to comment orally should virtually raise your hand by clicking on the reactions or raise hand icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen, or if participating by phone, by pressing *9. Oral comments will be taken in the order in which hands were raised. We ask with respect that members of the public express your views in 3 minutes or less. We'll have a countdown clock to help speakers keep track of time. Please note that speakers who exceed 3 minutes will be interrupted. Inappropriate public comment containing obscenity, hate speech, or relating to matters not before the board will be muted. Carrie, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Capizoli, Mr. Chow,
Here.
Mr. Cohen,
Here.
Mr. McGowan,
Here.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Here.
Mr. Quinn,
Here.
Ms. Sachs, Mr. Texarney,
Here.
Mr. Taylor, Jack,
He's muted, but he raised his hand. Oh,
thank you. Mr. Boddigheimer, and Mrs. Wilson.
here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Announcements. I'll turn first to Mr. Lesko.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And first off, Ms. Phillip, I believe Mr. Boddigheimer will be joining us momentarily. I just sent him a link, so just for your records. I have just a couple short announcements in relation to the master plan process that's going on right now. The second community visioning survey closed since we last met. We had about 1,500 responses. I have the raw data, but we're waiting on a report back from our consultant on that one, and I'm happy to share that with everyone. We've now received drafts of all the upcoming elements, and they're working their way through the subcommittees of the master plan steering committee and subcommittee of the planning board. And then just lastly, we're still on track for our second open house in September. I don't have an exact date or a location, but we're still looking to do that in probably late September.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any other announcements or from board members or from staff? Okay, seeing none. Are there any subcommittee reports this evening? Looks like the answer to that is Mr. Cohen.
Well, I'll just mention that the landscape subcommittee met to consider revisions to the site plan at Maybury Hill that related to changes to an easement area. The proposed changes were approved on advice of the landscape subconsultant. Landscape consultant.
Right. Yes, thank you for that. It had slipped my mind. Mr. Lesko?
Yes, I have one as well. The minor site plan committee also met since our last planning board meeting. I don't believe the chair is here, so I'll just give a quick report. That at that meeting on the 21st, they met and classified an application from Princeton University for geothermal boreholes at Poe Pardee Fields interior to the campus. They classified that as a minor site plan and they recommended approval to the board and the chair. That is, I don't believe it's been published in the paper yet, so the 10-day clock for someone to comment to send that to a full hearing has not happened yet, as far as I know. But I will let you know when that happens and once it passes through, so that it could be on its way for approval.
Okay. Great, thank you.
And Mr. Boddigheimer has joined us, so I just wanted that to be part of the record.
Yes, thanks, Ms. Phillip. Next on the agenda, we have minutes from February 2nd, but those are being carried to our next meeting because I did not review them until after work hours on Tuesday maybe, or Monday night. Tuesday was a holiday. Anyway, you all didn't get them in a timely manner, and so we're not going to consider those tonight. We'll consider them on, I think it's the 20th when we meet again, right? So next up, we have two resolutions. The first is for All Saints Church. This was a minor site plan with conditional use at 16 All Saints Road, block 4401, lot 3.01, file number P2222-292P/CO. Any comments or questions about this resolution? It's a pretty straightforward application. Would someone like to move it?
I'll move approval of the resolution as submitted.
I second.
Moved by Mr. Cohen, seconded, I heard Tim
Mr.
Quinn first.
Taylor.
I don't think Jack was present. Was he present that meeting?
I heard Mr. Quinn first anyway, so moved by David and seconded by Mr. Quinn.
And Mr. Quinn also was, I don't have him down as being eligible.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Those eligible are Mr. Cohen, Mr. McGowan, Mr. O'Donnell, Mr. Texarney, Mr. Boddigheimer, and yourself, Mrs. Wilson.
I move.
Then I'll
approval.
move. Yeah.
Oh,
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you.
Call the
Harry,
roll, please.
I'm sorry. Are you sure that's correct?
I was there, I think.
Yeah, for All
This
Saints.
was
Yeah.
for All Saints.
I have Tim down in the resolution as being present.
I'm sorry, Martina, what was that?
Yeah, I have Tim down in the resolution as being
Oh.
present and having voted.
Okay, I'm very sorry.
That's all right. Maybe you were thinking of Hun School, but even if you weren't, it's okay. We all make mistakes. So moved by Mr. Cohen, seconded by Mr. Quinn. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
yes.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Quinn,
Yes,
Mr. Texarney,
Yes.
Mr. Boddigheimer,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Good. Next up is Hun School of Princeton. This was a preliminary and final major site plan for Poe Dormitory. It's Edgerstone and Wynant Roads, block 8203, lot 1. This is file number P2222-288P. Any questions or comments, Mr. Cohen?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure there's no condition in the approval for review by the landscape subcommittee. There are a number of design items that are outstanding, like the bike storage and preservation of existing trees that would be accomplished by, adjusting the site plan a little bit. And I'm not saying that we did require landscape subcommittee review, but I just wanted to verify that was not required in the hearing if somebody does, have their notes, because it seemed a little bit unusual to me not to have it based on the kinds of changes that are conditions of approval.
Yes, I remember that conversation too, and I agree with that comment.
I can address that, Madam Chair.
Mhm,
My
please.
recollection was that we were going to have staff handle those both the interior bike spaces and the moving the path.
And that's what it says in the resolution. So
Yep.
I just wanted to put it out there, make sure everybody was okay with that.
Yes, I'm okay with it, especially if that's what we decided at the meeting, which I trust it is, because that's what's in the resolution. Which is based on a review of the video from or a tape of some kind, right? Yeah. Okay, so is there a motion on this? Moved by Mr. O'Donnell. Is there a second?
Second,
Seconded by Mr. Quinn. Call the roll, please, Ms. Phillip?
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Quinn,
yes.
Mr. Texarney,
Yes.
Mr. Bodekheimer,
Yes.
and Mrs. Wilson.
Yes.
Was I there?
You know, I was thinking that, Alvin, you rarely miss any meetings. I thought I took this directly from the resolution, so I have to double check. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Martina?
I have, Mr. McGowan is not there.
okay.
Thank you.
A rare absence, Alvin.
Motion carried.
It carried.
Okay, great, thank you. And with that, I will turn the meeting over to Mr. Quinn, as I am recused from the next item on the agenda. So I'm going to stop my video and ask Carrie if you will send me over to the attendees room. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the hearing application is Landwood Development, continued from 4/20/23, preliminary and final major subdivision and site plans 7/25 and 8/23 Herrontown Road and 9/15 Mount Lucas Road, block 1001, lot 1, 2, and 14. The file number is P1818-648-SPF. And I believe that we're going to continue this hearing, and I would invite Martina to articulate the sort of behind the scenes email communication between the attorneys.
Sure, yes, thanks. So Mr. Afran, who I think most of you know and is present here, I see him, who represents some objectors in this matter, objected via email a couple of days ago to the filing by the applicant of a slightly revised map. Now, this was the conventional site plan map, which had previously been submitted. And Mr. Afran objected that it was filed fewer than 10 days prior to the hearing. His position is, as he articulated, that this was a map required and needed to be filed at least 10 days prior to today's hearing. He requested the adjournment on that basis. He also requested a renoticing of the application. There was some back and forth. I think there was, without getting, I don't think we need to get into the merits of Mr. Afran's position, but suffice to say there was enough difference of opinion and concern that maybe there hadn't been enough time to review this particular map, that it was really most prudent just to carry the hearing rather than get into a distraction on a procedural issue. You know, so as I said, I'm not going to comment on the merits of Mr. Afran's position. I think that's moot at this point because Mr. Letizia, who's also present, consulted with his client, and I think their feeling was they would rather not waste the board's time, you know, given that these issues can sometimes become a real problem, you know, for proceeding with an application, notwithstanding the fact that, as you know, Mr. Letizia his position, and I think the board, at least my view was that initially that the revised plan that was submitted is not a checklist item, and that it was sufficient that it was filed ahead of the meeting to supplement a prior filed map. Now, this is not the site plan. This is not the cluster plan map that we're talking about. This is the conventional site plan that is used as a basis for determining that the cluster plan conforms. So that's where we are. And I think Mr. Letizia agreed to postpone this. The next available hearing, I understand from Kerry, would be the September 21st hearing. And the hope and plan would be to wrap this application up as quickly as possible at that point, given the history here, because we're going into our 5th year on this application. So I think we would like at this opportunity to kind of work out that schedule, if we can, taking into account Mr. Afrin and his need to present some additional testimony. As I understand it, maybe we could talk about, how much time may be needed and plan this out.
Thank you, Martina. And just for the board members, the 21st will now be given over to this application, and I've requested that the planning office and the applicant and objectors work on 2 additional dates in the hope that we can bring this matter to a vote in this calendar year. So I think that this was an abundance of caution situation regarding the interpretation of the old township code. And I don't think that disagreement among lawyers is a rare thing. And so appreciate it coming to here for the board members' information. It's possible that we might have to have special meetings if we are to wrap up within the calendar year. So I expect that the parties will work on some dates in addition to the September 21st date. So Martina, do we need to take any formal action? Just move that it be carried to September 21st, or?
That's right. It's my view that the applicant does not need to renotice this application. The applicant provided notice ahead of the March 2023 meeting, following a period of time when this application wasn't heard, and that was because there were some amendments to the plan. Mr. Afrin, I certainly invite you to comment if your view remains that this application needs to be renoticed, and perhaps you could state for the record why you think that.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. My statement that it was to be renoticed was only based on the assumption that we would adjourn the hearing without being on the record. Now that we're here and we're doing this in public notice, I would agree there's no need for renoticing. I would also just note, without getting to the merits, we thought it was a significant change because it involves the proposal of a new road in the as-of-right plan. And that was an issue raised in the last meeting. We had no time to review it with our experts. I don't mean any criticism, but it was important to us to have enough time. And that's why I asked for the adjournment. So I agree we don't need the renoticing now that we're on the record in front of the public. And I wanted to thank everyone, Mr. Letizia and Martina and the staff. We've resolved this very equitably. And a lot of times these cases become very contentious between the parties and the lawyers. And we've not had that here. And we have wonderful relationships. I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Thank you, Mr. Afrin.
Mr. Afrin, if it's okay to take this opportunity just to ask Mr. Afrin how many witnesses he anticipates still wanting to present.
We are in the middle of Mr. Rothhauser. That was Mr. Quinn had calculated, I think it's roughly 4 years ago. He's in the middle of his testimony. To some degree, that changes now because of the issue of the expanded wetlands buffer zones. And we also have to, hear the rest of the applicant's witnesses on the amendments to the plan, because there are some changes to the structure of the plateau, et cetera. But we still have Mr. Rothhauser to finish, and we have Mr. Smith, the engineer, Mr. Rodriguez, the planner. So we have at least those witnesses. They're probably going to be substantial. And one question I have for Ms. Letizia is he has 2 more witnesses, I think, to go at this point. Does he have an idea how long they'll be? Because my suspicion is we're not going to be able to get to my client's witnesses at the next meeting. And I wouldn't want to start them at like 10:15 or something. It's just not fair to everybody. So I was wondering what Tom thinks in terms of, because we haven't had cross-examination, board comments, or public comments on the applicant's new changes. So I was wondering what Tom thinks in terms of timing as well.
Sure, I'll be happy to present my view on that. For the record, Tom Letizia, attorney for the applicant Landwind Development Corp. And I appreciate the compliment from Mr. Afrin. I might be the only one I'll receive for the rest of these proceedings. Just kidding. In any event, we're pleased we're able to resolve this latest issue and that we can carry this matter to September. And I also appreciate the opportunity to discuss a schedule after September 21, such that we'll be able to bring this to a conclusion by the end of the year. In terms of how much more time my witnesses will consume, I'm probably going to have at least, there has to be some additional testimony by Mr. Brown. He will be followed by our traffic engineer, Nick Federici, who you've heard from before, but given it's a revised plan, we need some additional testimony from him. And then we have an environmental scientist who will be testifying related to the wetlands. And then finally, our planner, Mr. Hughes. My estimation is that while it sounds like a lot, given you've really heard a significant amount of testimony about this plan, we're really just going to focus on the changes. I would say about an hour, hour and a half, but that's not factoring in whatever questions board and staff may have of the witnesses. So if we begin at 7 o'clock, maybe by 8:30, 9 o'clock, the direct testimony will be completed. And then obviously, I'm sure Mr. Afrin will have cross-examination, and then members of the public will also have the opportunity to ask questions if we're going to continue to follow the format that the board has put in place for this application. So again, this is all estimation. What do you think? Another hour and a half or a question? I don't know how long Bruce will take for cross-examination of these witnesses. I guess he can't tell us at this point. So I think we will at least need one more meeting after the 21st of September. That's my sense at the moment for Bruce's presentation of his experts. And then depending how long that takes, maybe we could wrap it up in that one meeting. I think that's somewhat overly optimistic. I think we'll probably need one more after that. So total, including the September 21, I think we need 3 meeting dates. Ms. Phillip did provide me with 2 potential dates following September 21. And, please chime in, Terry, if I have this wrong, but I think you indicated that October 19th would be available, and then November 2nd. Those 2 dates are fine for us. We appreciate, that opportunity to try to wrap it up by early November. So.
I would note that those are both good for me, and I've been trying to get confirmation on dates from my experts, but if those dates work with the board schedule and they're open, I think, based on what Tom and I have just said, I think pretty much we're gonna need the full meeting for the case on all of these days. And, you know, the applicant's summation is always shorter than the objectors, but I would expect a fairly substantial summation on my part. So we're probably gonna need the full days, and the board's gonna have a lot to say, I'm sure. So if those dates work, I can then go to my experts and find out if they're all free. One of the problems I have is they're always at other meetings too. So if we can settle on those possible additional dates, then I'll be immediately be able to go check with my experts.
Yeah, the same. I haven't had a chance to review these other dates with my team, but I'll do so in the next few days and be back in touch. But at least I can then offer these dates and hopefully we can get them on the calendar.
Also, I wanted to advise that I reached out to Mr. Dobromilsky, who's our planning consultant, and he is available on these dates. A December date was not being considered because he was not available.
Okay.
Mr. Anosiki is in attendance. I was hoping that he can chime in or let me know of his availability. And Mr. Scoopian, I don't know if he's on. He's our other consultant. He is not. So I will check with them.
Well,
those,
great.
Those dates are okay with me for now. I don't have any conflicts on those 2 days.
Well, great then. And those are regular meetings, so we would board members would not have to prepare for a special meeting. And so I think we have a way forward, and unless there's some correction here, and this is a group of board members that are hearing this application who are not recused, and most are qualified. And if you're not fully qualified as a board member, I would urge you to get up to speed, contact Carrie, and find out what you need to be able to qualify, since we're on a pretty thin quorum margin at this point. So I guess I would accept the motion to continue this hearing until September 21st.
So moved.
And moved by Mr. McGowan and seconded by
Second.
Mr. O'Donnell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so thank you all for your patience, and I'm excited that we have a way forward toward a possible vote in this calendar year. It would anyway. Well, thank you. Is there, Mr. Cohen? I think there being no other business. He's already moved to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
And seconded by Mr. McGowan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Good night.
Enjoy the rest
you.
of your
Good night.
evening.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.